All right, if you're just joining us, we'll be starting in just a minute. So thank you all so much for joining us. Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Vander Westhuizen. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at MBK Senior Living, and I have a very, very special treat for y'all. Right before the holidays, we have Donald Mcgraw, who will be doing our wellness at home and in our senior living communities, part 2. We had such a great response to the first webinar that he hosted, gosh, about a month or 2 ago. And we wanted to dig a little bit deeper, and I know you do too. So without further ado, please welcome Donald Mcgraw. Thanks for being here, Donald.
Thank you, Kirsty. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Brief introduction about me. I'm the MBK Fit Director for MBK Senior Living. My office is in one of our communities in Thousand Oaks called The Reserve at Thousand Oaks. I have actually been in the building now for 10 years. This is my 10-year anniversary. So as a role of helping with the programming, the fitness programming in the community and for the company. Previously, before, well, 10 years ago, I finished a graduate degree in adapted exercise at Cal State Northridge, specializing in working with individuals with disabilities, complications, special considerations. So I transferred that into the world of seniors. So the great part is that I've seen, well, I've worked with almost every kind of special consideration out there and consistently found ways for people to be able to exercise. So a lot of people think that they can't exercise because of such and such reason. Well, my job and any of our MBK Fit instructors' jobs really is to show people that they can exercise. So that's the world of adapted exercise, whether it be for somebody with a spinal cord injury or somebody who has neuropathy, right? There's special considerations to take and to work around that to find a fitness program that works best for them. So since I did just kind of talk about the MBK Fit program, I did want to give a kind of overview of the program that we're building here at MBK to give you an idea how a lot of the information I'm going to give you now kind of carries over into that program. So, you know, our mission statement has some pretty important parts to it. Let me just go to the next slide. Oh, you know what? Sorry. Brief overview of today. So like I just said, I'm going to talk about MBK Fit. I'm going to give a recap from our part 1 presentation. We'll talk about cardiovascular exercise, strength, flexibility, holistic exercise. We'll kind of talk about goals, and I'll give you end you with some resources. So like I said, looking at that MBK Fit program mission statement, you're going to see that we deliver a progressive instructor-driven programming that we want to inspire and motivate residents to engage in lifelong health and wellness habits through a fun, dynamic, diverse fitness environment accessible to all ability levels. So on the next slide, you'll see some of the things I really want to highlight. The first thing is instructor-driven about our program. I just believe that the greatest motivator we have for seniors is that they like the instructor. The instructor inspires them and motivates them, right, to take on exercise for the longevity. And that creates a fun and dynamic, diverse environment. And that all comes from the instructor. So, you know, we can bring in the most experienced instructor in the world who can tell you they have, you know, the greatest outcomes ever. But honestly, if the senior or as us as individuals, really, if we don't like the instructor, if we don't find connections to that instructor, we're probably not going to do it. It doesn't matter what the resume is. It's about forming connections. That's what I really want out of our MBK Fit program, so that that carries over to motivate the residents. And lastly, out of that, the program is that it's accessible to all. You heard me talk about adapted exercise and working with people with special considerations. Well, we've got to be adaptable and make things accessible to everyone. Some of the program highlights, when our communities have the MBK Fit program, it's a full-time exercise specialist. They provide all the group class instruction. They do one-on-one training services for the residents. We'll have a 24-hour fitness center. The group exercises, like we're going to talk about today, will focus on the 5 components: cardiovascular, strength, flexibility, holistic, and balance and fall prevention. We work really well with physical therapists, right? We're kind of the next transition. When so many people are coming off of physical therapy, everybody usually gets discharge paperwork, exercises. Well, it's really hard sometimes to maintain that program. So the fitness, our job is to carry on from the physical therapy realm, and, you know, really important that it's fun and social. The MBK Fit instructor is going to adapt the programs for individual residents and the overall resident population. So every community is a little bit different in what each resident population wants. And kind of like I talked about, but the absolute most important thing is that our instructors are warm and understanding, patient, approachable, empathetic. We really want people to find a way to get exercise into their life for the long term. And it's not a short-term thing. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that too today. So I do want to do a brief recap. For those that were on last time, thank you for coming back. For those that missed it, I kind of want to talk about the difference between activities of daily living and exercise. So an activity of daily living, which most of you have heard of before, is anything you do every day, right? It can be as simple as brushing your teeth or as complicated as going up the staircase, you know, cooking, getting your clothes on, getting out of bed, getting out of a chair. These are activities of daily living. And exercise is something that is a movement that is repeated in order to elicit improvement or increase strength or endurance. And it's also some exercise is something that is a movement that's done to increase a skill. So if we look at activities of daily living as skills, right? The act of getting out of your chair every day, that is a skill. And that skill can be lost. What we have that information in our tool chest, as we all know that as we age and we do less, the skills that we had earlier start to diminish, right? So over time, the less of certain things we do, the harder and harder they get. Of course, age is a large affecting factor and injury is a large affecting factor. But, you know, when it comes down to it, especially as seniors, a really common thing is they stop going upstairs. Well, at some point, they won't be able to go upstairs anymore because that skill is no longer is not being practiced in order to maintain that skill. And so exercise becomes really attainable if we look at that dynamic, that if we can find a way for seniors to just add on to what they're doing in their activities of daily living, then we're going to hit in the exercise realm. An example is if a senior is, say, doing a walk, the same walk every day. And I talk to them and they say, well, I exercise every day. I do this walk and I go 2 times around my block. And I say, great, how long are you doing that? And how many times do you do it per week? And they say, I do it every single day. I've been doing it for years. And I say, great, you're not really exercising anymore. You're moving, and that's fantastic. I don't want you to stop. But at some point, that walk is going to continue to get harder if we do not find a way to make it harder every time, if we do not add on a little bit more. So we want that walk to be, say, 2 times around, and then maybe one more time, next time, one more time to the corner, and then back. So it's just a little bit more. Or I want you to take 1 less break. Or I want you to try and time yourself, and then the next time I want you to try and do it 2 minutes faster. So we have to find a way to add on so that the body actually sees it has to adapt. If it is done the same way, the same amount every single day, eventually it will slowly start to get harder. And that's where we start to see a slow regression in abilities. And people find that all of a sudden things get harder and harder. And so that's where we look into my without sounding egomaniacal, claim of the Mcgraw law of senior inactivity. And so I think on the next slide, we're going to look a little bit more about it. But this book, so I'm going to break down on the next slide the law, but we want you to think globally about your body and how overall, what movements you're doing in the day, what you're struggling with, and how you can start to add on just a little bit more so that you're hitting the exercise realm and not just the activity of the daily living realm or just a movement during the day, which are good. But again, if you are not showing your body or how to improve or why it needs to improve or why it needs to get stronger or why it needs to balance better, if you are not showing your body that it needs to improve, it will not. Our bodies are wonderful at just doing the bare minimum. Loss of posture is a perfect example. Our subconscious does not care about posture. It will let us slouch unless we consciously change it. So we've got to find a way to make those little changes to elicit improvements through the day. And you're going to find, which we'll talk about as we go, is that it just really starts with 5 minutes. Finding 5 minutes is, like I say, 5 minutes is always better than no minutes. But, you know, most of us have had the experience that when we don't feel like doing, say, exercise, and we just say, I'm just going to do a little bit, we end up doing more than we think we did. So just doing 5 minutes is like the appetizer to getting more of a meal, right? More exercise, right? You eat a little bit of food, it stimulates your appetite so that you want to eat more. Same thing. If we find a way to get 5 minutes, convince ourselves that we can just do 5 minutes, well, there's a better chance that we're going to end up doing more after that. Or we're going to find that it's an easier attainable thing for us to do, and that has the carryover effect. So I really did want to break down that law of senior inactivity. And again, I'm probably not the first person to recognize this, but in the world of exercise, especially when you're working with seniors, there are no guarantees of improvement. I could never tell somebody that, like they usually want, is that they want to get rid of the walker and not have to rely on it anymore. Can you help me? Well, I think I can. We can do everything we can to try to, but I can't guarantee it. We don't know what's going to come up. Everybody is different. Everybody's ability to commit time to it is different. Everybody's strengths, range of motions, everybody is different. So we will try our best to do it, but I can't guarantee that it's going to happen, right? Now, what we can guarantee is that if you're staying at that walker, if you do not try to make your body stronger, if you only rely on your activities of daily living for your movement and exercise, there will be a regression. And that cycle goes nothing, okay, right? So let's say you're walking around, nothing at all, okay? You're feeling a little bit unstable. You're thinking, I better get a cane. Maybe my right leg hurts a little bit more than my left leg, so I'm gonna get a cane. And so you got a cane, right? Now with the cane, you automatically will start going less places. You'll have a tendency to go places that you feel the most comfortable at. So your activity level already starts to decline the minute you got the cane. Not to mention your balance is gonna get worse because you're gonna have a tendency to lean on that cane more often. To actually, you start using your arms to help you balance, which is something that you were not doing before you got the cane. And then if you're not exercising, you're getting weaker. You're doing less and you're getting weaker, and your skills, like just say balancing, are getting worse. So the next thing is, I'm going to get a walker just for when I'm going places that are new. Well, as you're using that walker and going those places new, your body is working, your legs particularly are working less, your core muscles are working less because now your arms are doing more of the stabilizing. And especially with a walker, you will have far less tendency to go a lot of places that you used to go because you're like, it's not going to really work. I got this walker. I'm going to worry about the walker. I don't know where I'm going to put the walker. For some people, it becomes stressful and anxiety laden. So they start doing less. And if they're still not exercising, The next place is I need a scooter for those long distances or those places that I'm going. And so you can see, so that regression is a guarantee if we do not find a way to work on staying stronger and maintaining our skills. So it is nothing to a cane, to a walker, to a scooter, to a wheelchair, to a bed. Now, taking that walker description that I gave you is, this is not to be discouraging, right? If you're using a walker now, well, we can do everything we can right now to make you stronger and better and more comfortable with that walker, and make you more safe and stronger when you have to actually are forced to be without the walker. So that's the goals out of that situation, that we want to do everything we can to keep you in the walker phase. We can never go back to a cane unless we do everything we can first to keep you mobile and more active and safer with the walker, right? So it doesn't matter where you are. You could be using a wheelchair most of the time. We want to do everything we can to keep you as active as possible in that wheelchair so that you don't go to the next stage, which is the bed. And then everything becomes even more difficult, right? So we want to keep you where you're at. If we put a lot of work into it, maybe you could jump up, but there's no guarantees. But the best thing is that we keep you at that stage and you don't have a farther regression. And the downside of it is that cognitive abilities completely go down with the the decrease in activity and mobility, right? And I think everybody's seen this with somebody in their life where as they all of a sudden became far less active, okay, their cognitive abilities declined as well. And it goes hand in hand, and it's logical too, because if you think about it, the less places you're going, the less socializing you're getting, the less fun you're having, opportunities for depression are setting in, you start doing less, you're losing your motivation. So it goes hand in hand. We start losing that mobility, we start utilizing that safety net of the walker and the scooter and the wheelchair, right? And cognitive abilities go down. And the greatest motivator for a lot of people is that cost just completely goes up in the other direction. So as you become less capable of being mobile and active, right, your medical costs are completely going up, right? They're completely increasing. So there's a lot of motivational factors to do everything you can to put in work to keep your abilities where they are now, because we can't just rely on our activities of daily living. They clearly, just doing your activities of living clearly will not keep you from going on this cycle. You have to find a way to fit exercise in to maintain those skills so that we don't have these negative effects. It is completely up to you to just kind of recognize what's going on and realize I want to do everything I can right now, wherever I am, to keep what I got. And where and how can I fit some exercise into my life? And realize that being in denial is very dangerous. And everybody can probably think of people they know that said, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. And then, gosh darn it, something really bad happens and they have a major loss in abilities or mobilities. So, hey, you're where you are now. Let's find ways to keep what you got. And then some really good things could happen, but at least we can keep what you got, keep you mobile. Okay. So we'll move on. I know that was a lot. Okay, so kind of like I said before, I want you to think globally about your body, right? Realize that any movement is a complex pattern of muscles, right? We take for granted a lot what we're doing. I talk to people a lot about, well, I have trouble putting something up on the shelf. I can't reach up on the shelf, or it really is a struggle to reach on the shelf. Well, it's more complicated than just the shoulder. If you are standing in your kitchen, not holding on to something and trying to put something on the shelf, that is a complex patterning of your muscles from your feet all the way up to your neck and your head to stabilize and keep you able to not lose balance as you are reaching up. Many seniors have trouble losing balance just by reaching their hands slightly up. Okay, so it is a complex movement of patterns, and this is where exercise fits in, is that we've got to practice those behaviors, right? in balance training, just that act of reaching up, well, the more you practice it, that means when you go home, your body is better at doing it. There's a reason athletes have practice. They're almost paid billions of dollars now. These athletes practice every day. They practice before they play a game, right? Exercise is your practice towards activities of daily living, so that if you do them in exercise, your body will be more successful in doing it throughout the day, right? You got to realize that unstable joints, they lead to weakness and more instability in other locations, right? If you've got a hip that is far weaker than the other hip, you are going to rely on the other hip more. And that other hip eventually is going to get worn down because of it. So if that stronger hip is not forced to get stronger alongside with the weaker hip, there are going to be troubles that come along down the way, right? Everything works together. And that's where exercise sometimes is a little bit different than physical therapy. Where physical therapy, right, if you've got a bum right hip, they're going to give a prescription to focus 100% on that bum right hip. We want exercise to, yes, strengthen that right hip that might be weaker, causing more pain, but we've also got to think about everything else. And we've got to realize that if your shoulders are weak and you're using a walker, you are going to be leaning on your arms more every time you're standing on that right hip, which means your shoulders are going to carry the burden from it, right? We've got to realize that your body imbalancing because of that weakness in the right hip is going to not balance as well, right? So we've got to get you balancing on both legs. We can't just focus on strengthening the right hip. You know, muscles are there to support joints. You know, knee pain, such a chronic thing. There are no muscles in knees. There are muscles around the knee that move the knee and stabilize the knee. Left, right, forward, back, rotations, okay? There are muscles that stabilize that knee. So if you've got an arthritic knee, if you've got bone on bone, which is such a common problem, if those muscles from your hip on down to your ankle and your foot, if those muscles are weak, that is going to carry over to more pain in the knee, right? So we can't just focus on strengthening the knee. We have to focus on your ankle strength. We've got to focus on your hip strength, right? There's so much to focus on in order to take that pressure off that bum knee. And you can feel how your muscles can take pressure off. Go right ahead right now and just slightly slouch. And then I want you to draw your shoulders down and back. I want you to pull your head back. I want you to feel like your shoulders are drawing down and your head is increasing up. Okay. There is a big difference between how heavy our head feels when we lose that posture and how heavy our head feels when we go into good posture. And you should feel some relief going into good posture. Now you have to think about it, and it can be hard to do, but you should notice how less heavy your head is when you're not slouching, okay? Unfortunately, I'm really sorry to tell you all that there is just no magic pill. I wish I could find that pill that will instantly make you stronger and safer and balance better, but there is nothing. There is no surgery. Surgery will not make you stronger. If you replace your hip, they do not replace the muscles. So if you have weak muscles going into hip surgery, you are coming out with weaker muscles. Okay, so it's really important. If you've got weakness going on in a place that is going to be, surgery is going to replace it, you've got to find a way. And most of the time, doctors will prescribe exercise going into surgery. So surgery is not the magic pill. It might take the pain away. But if you do not focus on strengthening those muscles in some capacity, like I just talked about, the other parts of your body are going to make up for it. You know, really fascinating thing is that wrist, like just an example, wrist weakness can carry into shoulder discomfort. Okay. If I've got a wrist, I know it's got to make sure you can see it. Okay. So if I'm holding a fork and my wrist is too weak to raise that fork up like this and go to my mouth. Okay, so if I can't do this motion here in my wrist, I have to raise my shoulder up higher in order to get that fork in my mouth. So my shoulder will suffer from the weakness in the wrist. Imagine a wrist is like an ankle, right? If you've got weakness in an ankle and your foot tends to roll out, well, that's going to carry up like the wrist to the shoulder. That's going to carry up to your knee and to your hip and to your back. It's going to carry right up. So our bodies are really complicated, and exercise in any capacity is the only way to try and keep our mobility going and hopefully decrease more chances of pain and discomfort and balance issues and danger, right? And safety. I like to say a lot to people is our goal with MBK Fit is we want to change, chronic lack of inactivity to chronic activity, to lifelong change. Fitness is not an antibiotic. You cannot take it for a little bit and everything is good. Physical therapy is not going to fix everything. It's going to help. You're going to have much better outcomes from going to it, but you have to maintain it. You probably know, or maybe even yourself, where you've gone to physical therapy multiple times for the same thing. Because when physical therapy ends, unfortunately, it has to end at some point because of the system. And if you don't maintain that program, most likely people are back doing it again. So again, that's where exercise fits in, is finding a way to increase that little bit of activity as we go. Okay, so unfortunately, you can't just do it for a little bit and then everything is better. So, all right, so we'll talk a little bit about some, get specific. I had some, a lot of people who really wanted to know how I could bring exercise into my life. So the great part is that exercise does not mean running on a treadmill. It does not mean lifting heavy weights. It does not mean an hour and a half of work. It can really be broken down. So, normally it's about 30 to 45 minutes of moderate exercise per day is what is recommended for the senior population. And that can be broken up. It can be broken up. It doesn't have to be straight, right? So I tell people all the time, every commercial break, just do something. Okay. For some people, it's just standing. Every commercial break, just stand, right? That is in itself right away an exercise because it's outside of your activity of daily living. If you're sitting for an hour watching TV, your activity of daily living right there is sitting. Okay, so you're getting really good at sitting. Turn it into fit in some standing. So every commercial break is usually about 3-4 minutes long. That's 3-4 minutes of standing. That counts towards your 30 to 45 minutes. If your goal is 30 minutes a day and you stand or step in place every commercial break, okay, 10 times of that and you've hit your 30 minutes for the day. Sit to stands, which is what we're going to talk about, getting up and down from the chair 3, 5, 10 times. Maybe once every hour, you'll eventually find ways to get that 30 to 45 minutes of moderate exercise a day. Really find ways to give yourself a morning wake up. Find a set number of exercises that you really like to do in the morning. Before even getting out of bed, it might be pulling each knee towards your chest, wiggling your toes around, rolling your ankles around, and sitting up, kicking your legs a little bit, rotating left and right. Standing up, once you stand up, you take some deep breaths, maybe do a few more steps in place, get yourself going. So find a way to make a routine out of a morning wake up to fit in that exercise you want per day. Find a midday walk or an extra walk. If you're already doing a midday walk, find a way to get another one in, maybe a different time of day. Honestly, just about any exercise DVD you can buy that is right for your ability level is most likely going to be safe. There's tons of chair exercise DVDs out there, standing exercise, senior exercise, yoga. There's everything you can probably need. If you got one you like, find it, use it. Everything is easier when somebody is just telling you what to do. I spend all day long telling people to exercise. I need somebody to yell at me to exercise. So I use them too. Okay, to just motivate me to do it because it's just so much easier to have just somebody tell you what to do. Like we talked about before, so if your daily exercise is the same exact thing, if you're taking 1 pound weights, doing the same exercises every single morning, the same repetitions, you've got to add to it. Whether it be adding on weight, so going from 1 pound to 2 pound weights, or it's adding on repetitions. So if you do 10, adding to 12 or 15, okay? Adding an extra new exercise to that routine, you got to find a way to add on to what you're doing. If it's walks, add on time to your walks, okay? Or add on less breaks like I talked about. Try new things, change things up, find a friend to do it with. I know it's hard right now to find a friend, but find a partner, okay? And like DVDs, you know, there's a lot of on-demand technology right now. At the end, I'm gonna mention some internet sources for you. Utilize that technology that's out there. Okay. So people mentioned they really wanted to get some actual exercises or some examples of exercises. So we're going to go through that today, going through each 5 component of senior fitness that we follow here at MBK Fit. So we're going to take a look at cardiovascular exercise first. Cardiovascular exercise is any repetitive movement that's done in order to raise your heart rate. I've presented kind of 2 really simple ways for you to find squeeze in that little bit of extra exercise per day. The first one is that, you know, an example, you could do 4 rounds of 30 seconds of work and 30 seconds of rest 4 times, right? 4 rounds of that, and you've hit 4 minutes, right? You could increase the rest time if it's too difficult at first, but you know, that 30 seconds of work you're going to find will really increase your heart rate up. Okay, there's massive amount of data out there that will show that, you know, high intensity interval training is really beneficial for Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, dementia prevention. It's really good and efficient way to get the cardiovascular exercise you need. 20 years ago, the movement was, hey, get on a treadmill, run for an hour, hour and a half, people running. Well, you can burn the same amount of calories or sometimes more by doing high intensity rounds at short bursts. So this is an example of just 4 rounds, 30 seconds each, 30 seconds off. Another one that I absolutely love because it just keeps things interesting for myself is what's called the Tabata. And this is 20 seconds of work with 10 seconds of rest for 8 rounds, and that gets you to 4 minutes. So if you have a second hand, it's really easy to do both of these. It's really easy to fit these in commercial breaks, right? I talked about standing, right, or doing some kind of exercise during commercial breaks. This is a great way to fit in these exercises. You can map out a few of these in the day that you want to do during commercial breaks on your daily TV watching, and you can get it done. Or for those of you that want to hit your, you know, get more exercises, you could do 1, 2, 3 different types of exercises in this format, you know, and you know, 3 different exercises in the format of Tabata, and you're hitting 12 minutes, you know, that's 12 minutes of exercise that you're getting. So these are really easy ways to get movements in. And on the next slide, I've got some examples of easy ways to get movements in this capacity. You know, whether it be in a chair or standing, just marching or stepping in place, marching while sitting in a chair, punching, okay, punching cross body, okay, arm bicycling if you're sitting in a chair, just alternate kickings, fireworks. I got a video for you on the next slide. Don't show them, I'm not going to show them yet. Are a great way for you to get in that cardiovascular exercise. In the standing situation, standing, marching, sidestepping, doing quick feet, heel to rear is a nice way of saying butt kicks, and mountain climbers I'm going to show you 2 in a video. But these are all examples of things you can use in that Tabata format or the 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off format that will really increase your heart rate up and get that cardiovascular movement in for the day. And then keep it pretty interesting. It's honestly pretty interesting, and it goes by very quickly when you use that format of 30 and 30 or 20 and 10. So we'll go to the next slide. I'll show you those 2 exercises. One of them is in the chair. So this one I call fireworks. This is one of my kids' favorite exercises. It's basically like a modified jumping jack, more or less. But you know, you'll see it's seated, hands in, knees together, ankles together. And we basically just explode. Let's see if it'll play. That's it. You can put your arms down. If you've got shoulder range of motion or pain, you can put your arms up or to the side. Really simple. And if you want a good standing exercises, this is a modified exercise called mountain climbers. A lot of people do this on the ground, but you can modify it to the wall. So if you are somebody who doesn't like to get on the ground, just angle your body in a push-up position and you march just like that. So you'll get weight bearing into your arms, arm strength, and the cardiovascular movement is the alternating knees. And there are your mountain climbers. So 2 good ways to get some cardiovascular movement in, whether it be in the chair or standing. I do just quickly want to go over, when it comes to cardiovascular exercise, rate of perceived exertion. Most seniors are on some kind of heart rate medication, which means we really can't monitor your workload based on your heart rate, okay? Because your heart rate really won't increase, but your breathing rate and your perception of how hard you're working will change. So I really recommend that people try and get into the, I feel like I'm a 7 or I feel like I'm a 6, maybe I feel like I'm an 8 zone when it comes to cardiovascular movement. I don't really recommend ever really trying to get to 9 or 10 in the senior population. But if you're doing these exercises and by the end of them, you're thinking, how tired am I? 1 to 10, I'm like a 7, then you've worked hard. You've hit your goal. You're probably increased your breathing rate. You feel like you've worked hard. You might be sweating a little bit. That's what we want. So you want to kind of go off your own perception of how hard you're working. Much like many people are familiar with the pain scale, right? 10 is, I'd rather die, I'm in so much pain. You don't want to feel like that when it comes to how hard you think you're working, okay? So we'll move on. As again, I talk too much, so I don't want to run out of time. Strength exercises, think small at first. Think about what you're struggling to do through the day and what exercises are going to really help with that. Is a great way to start things off. Some of the best simple strength exercises that you can do as a senior are sit-to-stands, wall push-ups, chair dips, overhead raises, sit-ups in chairs, step-ups, or like I said, for those of you that are struggling standing, it might just be the act of standing with as good a posture as you can try to get. That might actually be your strength exercise. So it just depends. It depends on you. Those exercises that I just listed off, I should have a video for each one. So we'll kind of quickly go through those. The first is sit to stand. This is a modified squat using a chair. So you can put your arms out, come up tall, all the way to good posture. Always, I'm a stickler for good posture. You'll also see you could cross your arms across your chest also, potentially. If you struggle to get out of a chair, if I was struggling to get out of the chair, I could just add a cushion, raise myself higher, and I would be able to do those sit-to-stands. Ideally is to do sit-to-stands without using your arms, because when you use your arms, you will do them incorrectly. And of course, then your arms are getting stronger when we want your legs to get stronger. So with the sit-to-stands, if you're in a chair that you cannot get out of without using your arms, think about getting a throw cushion, okay? Or raising yourself up or using a higher chair. It might even be your bed. You might even be able to do them off the side of your bed if your bed is higher. But sit-to-stands without your arms, really important. Next up is wall push-ups. Okay, hopefully I've committed myself to as good a posture as I can get. Shoulders down and back. You should see there's a nice line from my ear to shoulder, hip, knee, and my ankles. That's what you want on the wall push-ups, is you want to think you are trying to get the best posture possible as you do those push-ups. Okay, and most of us know push-ups on the floor, but hey, just grab a wall, angle yourself, and you got them. Next up is chair dips. This is one of the best ways that you can get weight bearing into your arms, okay? So strength training and really important bone density growth comes from chair dips, okay? Because you'll be weight bearing into your arms. Looks like we're having a little bit of technical difficulty getting those chair dips Maybe we'll come back to that. Let's see. Okay, well, we'll look at curl and shoulder press. Okay, arms out to the side, to the shoulder, press up as straight as you can in those elbows. As usual, we got some technical difficulties. Keeping the arms out to the side a little bit will work your deltoids, okay? Not letting your arms rest on the armrests. And as you can see, I did them without the hand weights. Your arms weigh something, so you could always do them without an actual weight. Just doing them with the weight of your arms is beneficial as well. Let's see if we can get the chair dips going. Arms back. This is the weight bearing into the arms. It's really important. And also will help you get out of that horrendously low couch at your kid's house that you might have to get out of, or those darn low chairs that we end up sitting in. Okay, so really important. And what do we got next? Okay, sit-ups in chair is basically just a modified sit-up. Instead of on the floor like everybody had to do in PE, we're doing them in the chair, tightening the tummy to slowly lower yourself back, pulling through your tummy to come forward, not straightening the back stiff. You don't want to feel like you have a board in your back. So those are the sit-ups. On step-ups, okay, you can grab any staircase you want, okay? You can lightly hold on. I'm lightly holding onto that chair over there, okay? And I want you to notice that I'm really focusing on the descent, going slowly and not flopping down. That's really important. So let's play that again. And I just want you to see when you are doing step-ups up and down, is really try and slow yourself down on the descent. Don't flop. That descent is really important for your strength training. Okay? It's called an eccentric contraction. It's slowing yourself down. Really important. And it's really important for balance. The slower you go back down, the more balance it's going to involve. Okay. Okay, this is one of, I talked about being progressive in our programming. This is, as far as I know, my own creation, a senior burpee. If you don't know what a burpee is, consider yourself lucky. This is a modified senior burpee. It involves a sit-up, a sit-to-stand, and a wall push-up. It's a great way to get strength training in and also cardiovascular work. Just so you know, sit-to-stands will be a cardiovascular exercise as well. If you do sit-to-stands in that format of 20 seconds and 10, or you do burpees like this, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds of rest, trust me, you're going to really increase your heart rate. Well, no, you're not going to increase your heart rate because you might be on blood pressure medication, but you're going to really increase your rate of perceived exertion, and you're going to hit that cardiovascular realm. Okay, I did want to show getting on and off the floor can be a great exercise. I'm showing you my safest way that I work with seniors on getting on and off the floor is with a chair next to them. Outside leg comes forward and flat. Push into that leg, push into the arms, and stand up. So if we play it again, you'll notice I get real close to the chair. I get close to the chair, both hands on the chair. Inside leg reaches back, lower through the front leg. You want to practice getting on your hands and knees, hands back on the chair, outside leg all the way forward, flat, push into the legs and arm, and stand up. That is a great exercise. If you can get in 5 to 10 repetitions of that in whatever format of exercise you want, that is going to be really beneficial. Like I said, life is a series of skills. If you practice getting on and off the floor, guess what? You will maintain the skill of getting on and off the floor. Okay? All right, flexibility and range of motion. There's 2 types of flexibility exercises that I want to talk about. The first is static. This is just simply how far your muscles will go, okay? Or flexibility is how far your muscles can elongate. But the first is probably the one that everybody's most familiar with and most seniors cannot stand, which is static stretching, which is just Imagine you stick your leg out straight and you try and reach towards your leg, and you try and hold it, and you see how far you can reach, and you're not really moving, and you hold it for 30 to 45 seconds, 3 to 5 times. You know, that's really important. You know, but we also really want to hit the range of motion realm, which is more of a complex communication structure. So it's active and dynamic stretching. This means that, you know, if you imagine, if you've got one muscle contracting, there is an opposing muscle that actually has to relax and allow that other muscle to contract. So it's one reason why people over time lose abilities, is because muscles become too tight so that they actually fight each other. They fight against each other. If you just right now straighten out your knee and stick your leg out, you'll notice your quadriceps, the muscles on top of your thigh, are contracting and you feel them tightening, but the hamstring muscles on the other side, they have to stretch. So if you're struggling to get that knee fully straight, well, guess what? Your quadricep muscles are battling against your hamstring muscles and your calf muscles too, which bend your knee. So we want to do dynamic stretching because we want to increase that neurological feedback that goes on in your spinal cord from the contracting muscle, signaling the stretching muscle to relax and actually stretch. So instead of just actively keep holding your leg straight, you actually can, right, you know, hold that leg out straight, but then I want you to bring it all the way back and bring that heel almost underneath you, and then straighten that leg out again. And doing that, right, by holding for about 3 seconds and doing about 15 reps, you're stretching and you're having that active dynamic stretching, and you're really working on your range of motion in that joint. So I got two examples of how that works, the difference between a static stretch. Okay, so these two are static stretch. Okay, so here's an example of a chair hip flexor stretch. This is a really missed muscle group, and really important for your ability to stand tall is to stretch the hip flexors, the muscles in the front of the hip. They are, if you just look at me on the right, you'll see that the muscles in the front of my hip are really tightened, right? They're compacted. So the muscle, the chair hip flexor stretch, it stretches those muscles. Those hip flexors will battle people's ability to stand tall, okay? People struggle to stand tall when they get out of a chair because the glutes, the butt, is trying to get the hips forward, but those hip flexors can be so tight that they won't let the hips come all the way forward. And so people end up being bent over because the muscles in front are pulling so hard that the muscles that want them to stretch, it doesn't work. So the hip flexor stretch is really important. And please notice that I'm holding on my left hand in that chair hip flexor stretch. And then here's an example of a side and a back stretch. This will really get to a muscle called the quadratus lumborum. It's a deep, deep back muscle that hurts people all the time and is really tight. So notice I rotated and then I grabbed with the opposite arm onto a hand rest and I leaned away, okay? So that's a side and back stretch. It'll get your whole side, everybody's sides are really tight, and that QL is especially very tight, quadratus lumborum. He's a pesky. If any of you have been pregnant, guarantee you knew your quadratus lumborum. All right, so we'll move these same two exercises, but we're gonna turn them into dynamic and active stretches. So the chair hip flexor stretch, notice I took my sock off, I took my shoe off so that I have my sock, and I turn that chair hip flexor stretch into a range of motion stretch. So from here, I just lightly slide my foot forward and back, okay? Increasing that feedback. My glutes, my butt is trying to bring my leg back, and the hip flexor has to stretch in order for it to happen. So that's that feedback loop that we want to utilize, or well, we want to train. And then the other one, here's the side and back stretch, okay? Just making it active. Same thing, rotate, grab, lean away, come back, lean away again. So we're actively stretching the same muscle group. Both are beneficial, okay? Now, in general, better to do active stretching in the beginning, right? As like a warm up, and static stretching at the end. But wherever you can fit in stretching and range of motion exercises, please do. Okay, a lot of these you can do, right? You can do both of these while you watch TV. I know I keep saying while you watch TV, but everybody watches a lot of TV, so. Okay, I do want to talk about balance and falls. Unfortunately, walking does not help our fall prevention, and the reason is because when we walk, we do everything we can to make sure we don't stumble, we don't trip, and we don't lose our balance. So we're working really, really hard to be safe. Balance training involves challenging your system, challenging your body's ability to maintain balance. If we don't challenge the body to improve, it will not improve, and somebody could walk the entire day, but if they don't do balance and fall prevention training, their balance is going to slowly get worse, okay? So unfortunately, we've got to find ways to do balance training. What we really want to recognize is that a loss of balance does not have to equal a fall, but as we age, we start associating the fact that if I lose my balance, I will have a fall, and that has not been the case for most people's lives, right? Everybody in their entire life has stumbled, tripped, missed a step, gotten dizzy, okay, lost their balance, and for most of their life, they have not fallen. Now, why? It's because their body recognizes the loss of balance, and it moves in time to prevent the fall. So there's two types of balance. There's things we focus on when it comes to balance and fall prevention training. We want to focus on keeping your balance, which is really important, right? The better we keep our balance, the less likely we are to have a fall, guaranteed. But like in our entire life, guaranteed you will stumble, you will trip, you will lose your balance, you will miss a step. We don't want that to equal a fall because your feet move quick enough. So as we age, our footwork gets slower, and footwork involves weight shifting. So as we age and we become weaker and we do less and we don't exercise, our weight shifting becomes slower, which means our ability to move our feet becomes slower, leading to way more chances of having falls. One of my favorite things to hear about when I'm working with seniors in fall prevention is they come to me and they say, I tripped, but I didn't fall. Meaning they recognize that it happened. It's so unexpected. Nobody ever expects it, but their body, their reflexes kicked in, moved their feet quick enough so that they did not fall. And that is a powerful, powerful thing to realize that losing your balance or tripping does not mean you're going to fall because you have the ability to move your feet quicker. So preventing falls means maintaining balance, of course, right? Realizing that your eyes, your inner ear canal movement. So if you turn your eyes off, it gets harder, right? Dark, if everything is dark, you're going to struggle with balancing because your eyesight is turned off. Turning your head, it's why when people are walking and turning the head, they have a tendency to lose their balance because their ear canal, the fluid in there is moving and their eyes are moving. Okay, and your arms and limbs, right? If our arms are out to the side, we'll do better balancing than if our arms are pulled in. Okay, so we've got to maintain the balance. You have to recognize a loss of stability early enough so that your feet and your agility kicks in. And the final part of really working on fall prevention is fear reduction, reducing your fear of falling because you realize that you're keeping your balance better and your footwork is better. Okay. Very briefly, some balance exercises. Static balance is not moving. Okay, standing with your feet together. The closer your feet are together, the harder it is. The wider your feet, the easier it is. Okay, unless you get really wide, if you get way outside your comfort zone, that'll be challenging as well. Or standing 1 foot forward, like you've taken a step and standing like that. Very important. Any static balance exercises you do or you're following or any program you're doing, make sure it's in a safe environment. Okay. Dynamic balance exercises are what we talked about. So increasing your body's ability, your footwork, okay, your agility. That could be sidestepping, stepping in a square in both directions, diagonal stepping, moving quick feet. Just standing in place and doing quick feet is going to increase your body's ability to weight shift quickly and help prevent falls. You could do long steps, or you could do a crossover. but that's really got to be in an extra safe environment. When it comes to balance and fall prevention exercises, please recognize that we use the Goldilocks zone approach, meaning not too easy, not too hard, just right. So you have to be slightly challenged. If it's too easy, body's not going to learn anything. If it's too hard, body's not going to learn anything because you're going to be constantly grabbing onto whatever safety net you've allowed yourself around, okay? 2 examples of the dynamic balance exercises. Here's diagonal stepping, okay? And it's simply moving forward and out. So there's your diagonal stepping, okay? And then I like stepping in a square, which involves a side step. Let's see. So you see a side step, a back step, another side step, and a forward step, and then doing it the other direction. So back step, side step, forward, and another side step, right? So you imagine in fall prevention, right, you could lose your balance forward, back, sideways, diagonally. You could lose your balance in lots of different directions. Your body has to be able to weight shift quick enough to move your foot in either direction, sorry. Right, so that you are making yourself ready to prevent a fall in any direction. Okay. Briefly, just want to talk about when it comes to holistic programming in our communities at MBK Fit. We will usually always have yoga going on, some form of Tai Chi potentially. Meditation is so important right now. You know, finding ways to get yourself 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of just sitting quietly and focus on your breathing is so vitally important. I want to just throw something out there about breathing is to recognize that the inhale is a relaxation breath and the exhale is the contraction breath. So your ability to bring oxygen into your body is not pulling, it's actually relaxing. Allowing your diaphragm to expand is really important. So just, you don't have to be a professional meditator. Just take 2 minutes, quiet sitting, listen and feel your breathing is so beneficial right now. Another thing that we like to do at some communities is I Chi, which is aquatic Tai Chi. If you're not sure what that looks like, just Google it. YouTube is amazing. Type in I Chi, you'll see it's aquatic Tai Chi. So it's a really cool thing also. Okay, how do you make the changes? Please put exercise on your calendar. Make a plan. If you have a daily plan, if it be like, you know, you want to, every hour you want to get in that one of those 4-minute exercise rounds, you know, plan it out for the day so it's in front of you. You know, write down your goals, make sure that your goals are attainable. Again, the goal of not needing the walker anymore is not an attainable goal. A goal when involving your walker is, I want to be able to walk farther with my walker. I want to feel stronger with my walker. I want to be more mobile with my walker. I want to feel safer when I leave my walker and I'm walking around my house. Okay, those are all attainable goals. Write down the changes you want to reach those goals. Make sure, again, that they are possible. And then also to really internally look and recognize that let's just do 5 minutes. Let's do 5 minutes. Okay? Now, here's some resources for you. We have some actual MBK Fit instructors and group classes that will be up on the MBK Fit webpage. Okay. I actually teach a weekly webinar, a group class, Chair Fitness for Parkinson's. So you can RSVP at that website, the Reserve at MBK. So you're welcome to join that. Love to see you. Silver Sneakers is an amazing program. If you qualify for Silver Sneakers, and a lot of people do, it's a great program. They have a lot of on-demand group classes. And again, it could end up being free. So it's definitely something to utilize. Go for Life, National Institute of Aging is great. So if you go to their website, they have lots of links. They got lots of booklets on exercise, tons of really good stuff. YouTube is really, really actually helpful. Okay, you can go to MBK Senior Living on YouTube, Silver Sneakers on YouTube, the YMCA, Go for Life. You can always reach out to me. You can always check out an MBK community to learn more about the MBK Fit program and meet one of our instructors. So I hope I've left you with some resources. Okay, I think we did have some questions. Do I have time to answer a few of those questions?
You have time for one question, Donald. Pick your favorite.
Oh man, I talk too much again. I had somebody talking about some ideas on staying motivated for either if they are a senior or if you know they're working with a senior who's not being motivated. I really like linking diet to exercise. So sometimes motivating yourself to cook a healthy meal alongside with exercise afterwards, or 30 minutes afterwards. There's tons of data that links the two up. That when you exercise more, you want to eat healthier. Vice versa. When you feel you're eating healthier, you tend to want to exercise more. So maybe trying to link them two up, especially if somebody likes to cook. Finding something new. Okay. If you want examples on finding things new, or you want to send me information about what you're doing and finding something, you want something new, reach out to me. I use my kids with my grandmother or their great grandmother, and I have my kids do exercises with my grandmother, and they love it. They motivate her to do some exercises right now because they can't go see her. And always music. If you like music, put some music on and dance in your chair, dance standing up, dance laying down, sing to it. There's massive amount of benefits. Real quick, the single thing you can do that will light up your brain more than anything else is exercising with music and singing. Your brain will light up. It's so good for Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's prevention. It's so important. Just having music on and moving and singing, especially if you've got a partner. So if you've got a husband or wife and you can do it with them, even better. So there's some things you can do. Oh, your grandkids. Do it with your grandkids. Dance and sing.
Awesome. Donald, thank you so much. I feel like every time you do this, I walk away with totally actionable items, and I loved the videos. Can I just say I loved seeing you really do those movements so they're easily recreatable. So thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you. And the videos, this will be up on the website so people can access those videos of those individual exercises, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, there's Donald's email address. So if you have any questions, please feel free to email him. He is our absolute expert in this field. So thank you all for joining, and have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Thank you all so much.
Happy holidays, everybody.